Welcome back to my Mental Health and Crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is the case of the Idaho quadruple murders. This picture is from the first or second day of the crime scene. You can see the detectives actually standing in a corner. If you look upstairs on the board under Zaina's bedroom, you see that there's clearly no blood, not even dry blood. It's been said by some YouTube creators that there was blood on the board. I remember there was some pink powder, and that could be due, I'm speculating, this could be due to the forensics taking the crime scene brushes and whatever they use, whatever substance they use to search for blood, etc. You can clearly see that it snowed that day, the first day of the crime scene. If it was the red liquid that was being spoken about, it would have clearly showed. So I don't believe, because many people have asked me on my comment section if I thought that that was liquid, pink liquid. I don't believe it was at all. Another thing that I'd like to mention is the ladder that was under Xana's room. Let's give the detectives and FBI some credit. If the ladder was used in the crime scene, the police and the detectives and the forensic team were there the first 2-3 weeks. They wouldn't have used that ladder as a support to put the crime scene tape on it. They would have taken it with them, or we would have seen them taking forensics of it. I personally believe that the front door was used, or the sliding door. The reason I say that is the front door was wide open. So I believe either the surviving roommate, BF, ran out of the door after she witnessed all the yelling and screaming and understood that this was severe. She must have ran out for life. Or it could be possible that the suspects, I say suspects because I really believe there are more than one. I believe the suspects allegedly ran out of the front door. They must have entered from the sliding door and ran out from the front door. The front door was wide open. There had to be a reason for it to be wide open. But look at the picture above and you see that there's clearly no red liquid. Whatever red substance that was there, it was pink to start with. It wasn't even red. And I'll show you all pictures later on in my next clip of how that roof looked like. Because I've seen that pink powder or whatever was on top of that above roof or board. And I thought of mentioning it a couple of months ago, but then I checked on all the crime scene pictures, which you all can do that. It's still on Google, and you will see that there wasn't any liquid. That's my personal opinion. So I personally don't find the ladder to be something that was used. This board doesn't look solid. So if anyone stood on this board and were running around this board, it could have easily collapsed. I'm just observing, and this is my personal opinion only, but I thought I would share it with you all. There wasn't any red substance or red liquid there. And I do not believe that the Idaho detectives, the FBI forensic team, there were over 50 police officers and detectives around the crime scene for a couple of days. They would have understood, because they were even looking at the ladder and they were looking above, if you'll remember, on the side of the house. They would have never left that ladder there, and it's still there till today for a reason, because it wasn't part of the forensic. Kathy Murbett, the forensic coroner, who pronounced the deaths of the 4 victims, pronounced it to be at 2 a.m. or after 2 a.m. If she thought it was around 3:30, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., I believe she would have mentioned the deaths to have been after 4. She said 2 a.m. So what happened at 2 a.m.? Here's another closer picture of the board under Xana's bedroom. You don't see that pink powder or the substance there. If it was pink liquid, you'd have seen the forensic team on it. Because let's not forget, the forensic teams were up in the second floor in Xana's room, may she rest in peace, and Maddie and Kaylee's room for days and days and hours and hours. They had Xana's windows open even. So they would have seen the red substance, and they would have checked what it was. And the ladder, if it was part of the crime scene, I don't think it would be still lying there till today.
As investigators race to find a suspect in the gruesome murder of 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho.
It's pretty traumatic when there's 4 dead college students who have been stabbed to death in one location.
The coroner saying today autopsies have been completed and the victims suffered extensive wounds after being stabbed multiple times with a large knife. Investigators now working to determine if the victims had defensive wounds or may have gotten the suspect's DNA on their bodies.
Well, looking to see if there's some clues that are on them. So some of the suspects' blood perhaps, or something under somebody's fingernails.
The coroner saying the autopsies have found the time of death sometime after 2 a.m.
We heard that clearly. The coroner stated that deaths happened after 2 a.m. I think that is one of the most important clues. It didn't happen after 4 a.m. Why did the coroner say it happened after 2 a.m.? We saw those 4 figures running around 12 past or 17 past 3 We saw the Banfield minor stop. It started at 2:56 and it ended at 3:17 or 3:18. I believe this was all between 2 to 3:30, allegedly.
See if there's some clues that are on them. Some of the suspects' blood, perhaps, or something under somebody's fingernails.
The coroner saying the autopsies have found the time of death sometime after 2 a.m. Investigators now reviewing this video, which they say shows two of the victims at a food truck just hours before the murder. Police also confirmed two other roommates were home and unhurt at the time of the murder and are actively cooperating with the investigation.
We're not just focusing just on them, we're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence.
Authorities say there was no sign of forced entry at the home. They think this was a targeted attack and are still searching for the murder weapon.
We cannot say that there's no threat to the community.
Meanwhile, a community in mourning.
Just because there's so many people here in this area who know them and love them, and we just want to shine a light on them.
While a mass murder is still on the loose. Gotti Schwartz.
A former roommate who's lived in Kings Road, 1122 Kings Road, speaks about how he felt when he lived in the house, what could be heard, and what was difficult to hear.
On the murder of 4 students at the University of Idaho. The campus is shutting down for the holidays with the killer still on the loose, and we're getting a new look at the so-called party house where the victims lived and hearing from one student who once lived there. Andrew Dimbert has the latest. Good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning, Will. So we're getting some new insight into that gruesome crime scene and the house where the murders took place. We're now learning that police spoke with one of the victims on the phone about 2 months before the killings as part of a noise complaint. This morning, as authorities search for the killer of 4 University of Idaho students, newly surfaced body cam footage showing a police-involved incident at their home 2 months before they were killed.
No one that lives here is here right now.
So where'd they go?
They're just not here. I have no clue where they went. No clue.
Authorities seen responding to a noise complaint in September, greeted by people who didn't live at the house. Officers then speaking with Maddie Mogan, one of the victims, by phone, who along with the other residents was not there at the time.
What's your first name? Maddie? And how do you spell that, Maddie?
My legal name is Madison. It's Madison.
The video showing how many outsiders were able to access the property. And as the mystery grows over how the killer was able to get away unnoticed, a former student who graduated in 2022 and lived at the same house during his junior year talks about his experience there.
It's definitely an old, creaky house. You can't walk up any of the stairs or on any of the floors without everybody in the house knowing it.
Cole Alternator says the building doesn't offer much privacy and was well known to students.
A lot of students are very familiar with the inside of the home around the community. There have been thousands of people that have likely been through it throughout the years. Even when we had it, there were people that would come and knock on the door or walk in thinking that it was somebody else's house.
Now, as the school closes for winter break, the house and campus quiet. But police say their search for the killer will not slow down.
We're going to continue to push through the holidays. We have a team that will continue to do the investigation and work on that as we move through the holidays.
As the investigation suspects named, police are apparently looking for a white car seen near the house the night of the killings. At the very least, authorities believe the people inside the car may have important information about this still.
That was clear, crystal clear. The police were searching for a white car with occupants in it that was seen near the area. Not a occupant, but occupants in it. We have the former roommate saying that you could hear each and every noise. If somebody was walking on one of the floors, the house would make creaky sounds. So how come Bethany, BF, who was in the ground floor, first floor, and DM, who was on the second floor, who was allegedly the witness who saw a man with bushy eyebrows, how come they didn't hear all the running around, people fighting for their lives? We know that Xana and Kaylee allegedly had defense wounds. They fought for their life. A thud was heard. What really happened inside the house? Who was the target or who was the targets? Why was these students attacked? The car that was standing outside, seen near the area of the house, had occupants with a S, not an occupant. The car that was being searched for by the police was a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. It wasn't a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. So what is happening? Why did the timelines get changed? The coroner has no reason to lie. She pronounced their deaths after 2 a.m., not after 3 a.m., not after 4 a.m., not after 5 a.m.
As the investigation continues and still no suspects named, police are apparently looking for a white car seen near the house the night of the killings. At the very least, authorities believe the people inside the car may have important information about this still unsolved quadruple.
The police on the crime scene, the forensics, were standing near the window in the first floor. They're standing outside, you can see. They were taking a lot of pictures there, and they kept on looking at that window. Were the suspects inside that room waiting for the victims to come home, allegedly? What happened in that room? Because that was a vacant room. I wonder who had access to that room. Were the people hiding and waiting in that room? Pay attention to the telephone wires. I showed you all the 4 shoes that were hanging. They started hanging there late on after the crime scene. This was one of the theories I had. Could the suspects or the suspect have come in from the basement door? Because that's the access to the house. I wonder if the basement door was left unlocked. Let's not forget, many people used to visit this house. There was many parties held in this house. So people were inside this residence. The roommates and the victims who were living in the house wouldn't even know if somebody pre-planned this, went downstairs to the basement and left the basement door open, unlocked. Because you can see the crime scene tape is near the basement too. The 3 unidentified male DNAs found inside this house. One was the van shoes, the latent print. One was the glove outside. We had the leather knife sheet. And we have fingerprints near the Good Vibes picture. Why is all these evidence not handed over to Ann Taylor? So it clearly shows there was 3 unidentified males in the house. Do you all remember that Inan Harsh said that if he was not the killer, but a person who went in this house, he would have gone from behind. I do believe that. I'm not saying Inam Harsh did it, but I'm saying this is a good access point.
With a C, Mabbutt, M-A-B-B-U-T-T.
And I'm gonna ask you, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it for 16 years, and I just got reelected for another 4.
So what is it that, or I guess, when did you get the call on Sunday?
I got the call just a few minutes after noon that there were 4 homicides, but I didn't go to the scene because of law enforcement doing their investigation first, so I didn't actually go to the scene until about 5 or 5:30.
Can you walk us through, like, for our viewers, kind of the process between when police show up and then you guys getting the bodies and doing their examinations?
Sure. Well, law enforcement goes through and looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is, to look at the bodies.
As a coroner, do you guys do the autopsies and all that?
No, we some do if they're an actual medical examiner, but we have forensic pathologists and we contract with Spokane to do that.
So in your experience, what is it that you saw when you showed up?
Well, there was a lot of blood. It was a very sad scene with 4 murdered college students.
You're ruling all 4 deaths homicides?
Yes.
Okay. And can you give us a manner of death? Yeah.
I believe that the press release was that they were from a sharp object. So
stabbings.
Yeah, I will know more after the autopsies tomorrow.
And do you believe this could be like a murder-suicide or something?
No, there are 4 homicides.
4 homicides. Okay. And when it comes to doing the investigation post-autopsy, that falls on you, correct?
Yes. It's my job to determine the manner and mechanism of death.
And then I know with toxicology results, there can often be, in Washington, a delay. So do you have any idea how long it could take, if those were relevant, to get any type of results back on that?
Well, the toxicology reports, right, they usually take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But they might, I don't think they're going to be relevant in the actual manner or cause of death.
And do we know how long between the time of death and when police found them, approximately?
No, I don't know for sure.
Do we have any, could it have been hours? Could it have been a day? Was it maybe close? Is there any sort of time frame there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, gotcha.
And you said the scene was really difficult. I mean, is this something you've had to deal with before in Moscow?
Since I've been coroner, there have been at least 2 other multiple homicide scenes that I've been involved in. So.
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
Oh, it's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was because the injuries could be similar to matter to you.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I don't know that I can discuss that.
That was my next question too. So, Okay, yeah. Will we be able to get a copy of your report once it's concluded? I'm sure it'll be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just call.
Pay attention to, this was, I believe, the second interview that the coroner did. The first interview is when she said that the death was pronounced after 2 a.m. Over here, she doesn't want to speak about where the victims was found located. The coroner told us at the start that they were killed in their sleep. We found out later on that it wasn't true, that Xana had defense wounds. We don't know actually if Maddie and Kaylee were sleeping. We don't actually know that. We really don't know where the bodies were found. The timeline has clearly been changed because if the victims died, if they got killed, trigger warning, after 4 a.m., the coroner wouldn't have said that they died after 2 a.m. Sometime after 2 a.m. That is when the deaths was pronounced. So if they died after 2 a.m., how could Brian Koberger come and commit these horrific crimes after 4 a.m.? Make it make sense.
She was okay. She didn't never respond. So it was 10 in the morning.
This is Kaylee's best friend, Eva. You hear Eva saying that she called Kaylee and she wasn't picking up her phone. That's after she heard it, and she said it was 10 a.m. in the morning. So how come certain students knew about these horrific crimes before the police knew, before the 911 knew, before the ambulance crew and everyone knew? The students clearly knew about these horrific murders. I believe if they knew that Brian Koberger did it, allegedly, they would have called the police immediately. For me, this is only my speculation, it sounds like all the students knew it was some college students who did it. This is a cover-up. I hate to say it. The students are covering it up. Allegedly. Because by them saying they knew it at 10 a.m., something is clearly wrong. The coroner said the death was pronounced after 2 a.m. How could DM sleep, lock herself in the room? BF knew about it too. They were texting each other. How could someone find it normal to sleep, lock their rooms, when DM clearly heard Xana crying in her room? She saw a man with black clothing and bushy eyebrows, and she still found it normal to lock herself in the room and not call 911?
It's a very different. 2 a.m. is a dark hour, I can tell you that. This is something you wake up and you realize it's never going to go away. And it's a very different. 2 a.m. is a dark hour, I can tell you.
2 a.m. is a very dark hour. That I can tell you. That is what the parents said. What happened at 2 a.m.? Where did 4 a.m. come into this picture? This lines up with what the coroner said. She pronounced the deaths after 2 a.m. Pay attention to how many things was happening between 2 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. We had the Banfield alcohol minor stop that started at 2:56 a.m. It ended at 3:17, 3:18 a.m. We had the four figures running away at 3:17 a.m. We have the parents saying 2 a.m. is a difficult hour for them. Not 3 a.m., not 4 a.m., 2 a.m. We have the coroner saying the death was pronounced after 2 a.m. Did they find footprints there? I always focus on this picture and the basement door. Were the suspects hiding in the empty room? Why did the forensic team take so long taking pictures of that window and taking the forensic equipments out and doing tests on that window? This is another interesting picture. This is next to the sliding door. There was a small window near the sliding door. The forensics are using the brush on the window. A footprint was found there. That's the reason they're taking pictures there. This is in front of the house. This is where one of the 3 unidentified male DNAs was found, near the Good Vibes picture. When did they hang up these 4 pair of shoes? Notice how they hanged it up. Each one on one telephone wire, so that there's a space between it so that everyone can see it clearly. I believe this was done somewhere in January or the end of December. But that's a clear signal for whatever. DM had this on her social media. The pink mask one is her, and the one in the black mask is Queen Kelly. Why did they have it on that night? It was on VSO. Why was everything deleted from their social medias? This was the 4 figures that were seen running. Allegedly, it was the Sigma Chi or those areas. They were coming from the direction of Kings Road. What was going on that night? I wonder if all the fraternities were investigated that the night and the following days. How thoroughly was they investigated? The president of Sigma Chi said that they don't have cameras. So they can't take account for how many people were actually missing. Bethany Funk's bedroom was on the first floor. Bethany Funk was present at the home 8 hours later when police were called. She arrived on the scene and discovered the homicides. So Bethany Funk was actually not at home. Bethany Funk was present at the home 8 hours later when police were called. She arrived on the scene and discovered the homicides. So what did Bethany Funk see that could have exonerated Brian Kohlberger? Bethany Funk's statements is very important. Why is it under gag order? Isn't Brian Kohlberger entitled to a fair trial? Isn't the parents of the 4 victims entitled to a fair trial so that justice can be served correctly? This was on NBC News. So Bethany Funk's statements are crucial. And I mean crucial so that we can hear about it in the trial, not from some YouTuber creator called What's Obsession, who allegedly says that she has inside information from the fraternity boys, especially the Sigma Chi boys. Why are they the mouthpiece of Bethany Funk? We want to hear it from Bethany Funk's mouth. Where was Bethany Funk that night? I'm sure that's why her statements are really crucial. I don't believe DM could have seen so much when it was pitch black. It was dark inside. I'm sure she can hear the rumbling, the fights, the yelling. How could she see bushy eyebrows in the pitch of the night? I think this is really important. So Bethany Funk was not at home. And I've seen this on many news reports. NBC is a big news channel. CBS is a big news channel. CNN is a big news channel. And they all had the same report. Let me know what you all think in the comment channel, the comment section. Have a lovely weekend. Justice for the victims. May the correct justice be served, and then the correct suspects be arrested or suspect. If it's Brian Kohlberger, then he deserves what's coming to him, but he's entitled to a fair trial because something doesn't make sense. Brian Kohlberger, his phone pinged there after 3:30, and allegedly he stopped his car and got off at 4:05. That doesn't add up, because the coroner said that the student's time of death was after 2 a.m. That'll be around the time Kaylee and Maddie got home. We saw Maddie's jacket, her long black jacket, in the bushes. What is going on? Make this make sense. It doesn't make sense. And this is for entertainment purpose only. Have a lovely weekend, guys. Stay blessed.